All right, welcome back, guys. Well, as temperatures rise, so do the risks of mixing alcohol with fun in the sun. Now, just how dangerous can it be and what should you watch out for? Joining us today is Dr. ELSWICK, Assistant Extension Professor for Substance Use Prevention and Recovery, to break it all down. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Dr. ELSWICK, tell me a little bit about why it can potentially be dangerous to mix alcohol and sitting out in the sun.
Sure. Just before we jumped on the segment, we were talking about how everything's been about the heat and the temperature.
Yes.
So I think this is very timely and appropriate. You know that the sun and the heat present their own kind of risk of harm, and alcohol presents its own kind of risk of harm. But in combination, there's sort of this synergistic effect where each can kind of make the other even more harmful.
Okay, so tell me kind of how harmful can it be and how many people are harmed each year? Because I'm sure this is not something people think about.
It's not, and you and I were just talking about this as well. We live in a very alcohol-centric culture where alcohol is just a part of a lot of the ways that we socialize, and so often we overlook the potential harm associated with that. So about 31% of all drownings involve a blood alcohol content over 0.08.
Okay.
People who have a blood alcohol content of 0.08, which is intoxication, are about 14 times more likely to be in a boating accident. And so we know that all these figures really add up to a great deal of harm.
So what about alcohol and mixing it with the heat in particular makes it potentially more dangerous?
So we know that anytime we're in this kind of extreme heat, that there's a risk of dehydration because you're losing electrolytes so quickly. But also, when you combine it with alcohol, alcohol acts as a sort of diuretic that can make you go to the bathroom. And so if you're rapidly losing fluids and also sweating out electrolytes, that can be a really bad combination that can contribute to the dehydration, which then in turn can make you even more quickly intoxicated.
Okay, and then turning that with the heat into the sun, how does the sun also go along with that?
Yes, so certainly when you're drinking alcohol, you're probably a little bit less thoughtful about staying covered, staying in the shade, about applying or reapplying sunscreen, maybe for you or for your children. But there's also some research that shows that there's something about alcohol that actually makes the sun more harmful to your skin. So not only is it sort of indirectly preventing you from protecting yourself, but it's also directly causing a little bit of harm.
Okay, wow, I did not know that, and I grew up around the sun. So what are some ways to reduce this harm that's associated with this?
There are tons of harm reduction strategies for alcohol consumption in the sun. The biggest one is going to be staying hydrated. So whether that's alternating alcoholic beverages with water, or maybe even with 2 or 3 waters, you know, including beverages like a Gatorade maybe that gives you some electrolytes. And then another problem that a lot of people have is when we're hanging out at the beach or the pool or we're boating, a lot of times we're combining really high, quick carbohydrate snacks with the alcohol, which is not going to keep you full very long. So try to eat some protein and a healthy fat along with it, and stay hydrated, and always have a designated driver.
Yes, of course. So drink a huge breakfast before you go, because you're gonna, if you're just sitting out in the sun, whether you're sweating or just laying there or playing out in the pool or the water, you're gonna burn that off quickly anyway.
That's right.
So, all right, well, doctor, thank you so much for joining us and for teaching us so much important information. Guys, we do need to remember this because I'm sure it's something we don't think about at all. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We have more coming up after the break.